I'm just trying to make sure I break this down into points. Let's see if we can embed this chart into this particular worksheet. So you can highlight this or not, go to your developer tab, and of course click on Visual Basic, and the code will come out. So if we want to embed the charts into an active worksheet, we need to declare our object variable. Now, if you look at this, you automatically know that this is a shape. Okay, this is a shape on its own, and that shape is what is called a column. You could have a shape that is a pie chart. You can have another shape that is clustered column, a line graph. You could have tons of shapes. If you come here, you would see tons of shapes, all of this. So when we say that we want to declare our object variable, we want to declare to Microsoft VBA that our we want to tell it that our object variable is a shape, and we have to call the shape. Let me do this so you see. We have to, just like in Python, you have something like import PD as pandas, right? In SQL Server, you have where this equals to this, and in Excel, you have in Excel basic functions or intermediate functions, you have something like if this equals to this, blah, blah, blah. So every of these software have their particular functions that they use to call in certain things. So for VBA, you have dim. Okay, we have to call dim, which is declaring object variable, dim chart or sheet rather, CHEET. So instead of calling CHEET, we just put CHT. We want to declare this particular sheet, we want to declare it as containing a shape. Okay? Object. So we want to declare it as containing a shape. And we want to now, the next line of code is we want to set that sheet, okay, to be equal to the active sheet dot shape. Okay, meaning you want the active sheet to contain whatever shape that you want it to have. And then we want to add that to that active sheet. Are you following me?
Following.
Yes. So, but in later versions of Microsoft Excel, if you are using Excel 2013 and above, instead of putting .add chart, try to put .add chart 2. Just put 2. Okay, but because I'm using a lesser version, I don't need to put 2 because I think I was looking at it sometime. I tried to put 2 and I discovered that it didn't work because I have the lesser version of Excel, and then I was like, okay, let me use the add chart, and then it worked. So this is the end sub, which of course means you are ending your code as it is, just like you have bracket open and close in Excel functions, right? So let's see if this would work. You are going to run this code, and let's go to our chart sheet. Oh, voila. So now the problem I had was that I actually opened the chart 1, and you can see it brought up this instead of this code. So let me delete this and go back here and run the code again and see. So because I was actually putting the active sheet instead of I clicked on sheet or chart number 1 as the active sheet. I didn't go to sheet number 1. So it felt that okay, maybe I want my active sheet to be sheet number 1. So this time around, I'm going to just click on this sheet number 1, which is what I want, and then come back here and run the code. And let's see if that will work out. Oh, wow, it didn't work out. Okay. Developer.
Yes.
All right, it worked. So I think the thing we need to remember is that we have to highlight the tables. Initially, I didn't highlight the tables, and you can see what it did. So this is basically it. So the next thing I want to do now is, let me drag this somewhere here and delete this. The thing I want to do is, let's say I want to change the chart type. So I'm just going to go to this one. Let's say I want to change that. For this particular one, we call it, we say we want to do what? We want to embed chart. This one, we want to change chart. So we are going to have another code, like we say add chart is dim, declare object variable chart as shape, and type it or choose it from the drop down. Then set chart equals to what? Active sheet dot shapes dot what? Add charts. Okay. Now the difference is we now have to use the width function and say with chart dot chart, and we want to see all the object variables. So we can say chart type. This is supposed to come out. Okay, just say chart type equals to
Multi. I don't know, but I don't know.
what?
That side, I think it should be double T.
The what?
Why you put chart type just like supposed to be double T. The other line just cleared where you have dot chart type. It should be double T, chart and type.
Which line of code? Is it the first one?
I've deleted it already.
Oh, okay.
I've removed the line, the entire line.
Chart type. Actually, the properties are supposed to show if I put in the dot, whatever. Anyway, we just want to put 3D area, and then let's say we want to end with. Let's run this code and see. Add charts, macro name. Okay, add chart 2. No, wrong. Ambiguous name. I always have this issue when I'm putting two charts at the same time, at the two name charts or whatever. So Excel is like we already have a first add chart, right? So don't come and title another chart to be add chart. So that's why I had to put another T. And if we go here, you would see that there is another chart, in fact. And this time around is um, an area chart, okay? So that's why it's different from the first one. So you definitely would know how this thing works if you study. I'm going to show you how to just get an idea of how some of this code works. But for now, I'm just teaching you how to insert different types of charts on a particular worksheet using VBA codes. So you can come here and change it to, you can come to this code and change it to something else. There's supposed to be a drop down, maybe XL column. I don't know, is it column clustered or clustered column? Okay, column clustered. So assuming we want to insert this code or this particular chart, we want to run it and call it the second one, run it. Yeah, and let's check and see. All right, perfect. So we already have column clustered here, so no need to, perhaps I'm going to delete the first one, and let's see if we can insert a pie chart. Are you following me?
Following you, yes.
Want to insert pie chart. If you try this from your end, when once you hit on equals to, you are supposed to have, when once you hit equals to, this is what I was saying. So you can see the number of the type of charts that are available, right? Column clustered. It's funny how I just knew it's column clustered. HL 3D line, 3D pie, 3D exploded, uh, 3XL area, which is, I think this is the first one I used, was it?
Yes, so that's
Area stack, bar clustered, bar of charts. So let's say we want to put a pi 3D pi. So we click on that, right? And then we run the code. And then you come here. Uh, okay, it's not showing. But how come it knows this is a, okay, it's not showing. Let's see.
let's realize this one again.
Yeah, highlight it, go to developer macros. Um, Let me do this again. Run the code.
Yes.
All right, so it worked, right? Now I just noticed that I didn't properly highlight the first one because you are supposed to have this sales as a title coming up. So I'm gonna come. You can see there's an extra space which is not supposed to be. So probably that is where the mistake was from. So I'm gonna do this again, and
And just run
this
it. No.
this time around I want to put bar clustered and then run the code because I want to see the title of all of my charts. Perfect. So I don't want to see this again. I want to take this out. So you can see sales is right there. Okay. I'm gonna have to delete this, but I want to see the sales again. I'm gonna go here and I want to put the area chart. 3D area, and I'm going to run the code and go to my Excel. Now I have sales 1 and 2 and 3. So perfect. You can add as many charts as you want to,
It
but
means
in this case,
once you write that code once, just change the format you want, the type of chart you want. That's what you need to change there.
yeah.
That's fine.
So sorry, are you hearing me?
I hear you.
All right. So now what was your question again, please?
I said for the code in the VBA section, if we want
Hmm.
to add another chart, we don't need to write a new code for the chart. It's just to edit the type of chart we want, right?
Exactly. You don't need to write another code. You just keep changing the chart type, run the code, a new chart will come up. Keep changing the chart type, run the code, a new chart will come up. Okay. So, but the next thing we want to do now is we want to add the chart title to all of these texts. Okay. So instead of having sales, 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 we want to add a chart title. So we go to our code where you have chart type equals to, the name of the chart, right? You now simply put another line of code and we want to call it, you can see now I just put the dot and then the properties are all coming down. So you could choose from any of these properties, but we want to put the chart title property, which is this. So we
Okay.
have title and you have to put the text because that is what we want to put. We don't want to put I'm going to show you why this code is the way it is by basically inserting a chart, changing the chart title, and then showing you using VBA the codes that Microsoft would automatically generate for you to know that this is the code each time you want to change the chart title. So we have that equals to, and we want the chart title to be called new chart. And remember, just like in Excel, anytime you are putting in something that is outside the code, so everything here is a part of the code. That is why it is not, you can't put them inside inverted commas. But if you are bringing in a foreign element or a foreign element into the code, you have to put them in inverted commas. Remember when we're using the if function in Microsoft Excel, right?
Yes.
We say if, assuming you want to put A's for everyone that had 70, you want to use the if statement to effect that change. So the if statement is equals to if bracket open 80, anything greater than 80, you put A, right? That's a double quotation A. If not, you put B. If it is less than, you remember things like that.
Yes.
So why we have double quotes for under new charts. And let's run this code and see what is going to happen to our chart. So we run this code and then perfect. So we run this code and now we have one that we can call a new chart. So instead of sales, you have a new chart here, here, and here. Now the problem here is that it is only appearing in one place. So if you have a clustered, if you want to insert other charts, I should have done this before inserting all these pie charts and all that. But if you want to insert new chart titles, you can put the name of the chart title in your code. And that's what I just, showed you. Now, the next thing we want to do is that we want to insert, um, we want to call each of our charts distinct names. I'm going to try a new code now. Let's say I want to create a chart loop. I'm going to explain what this means. So to do that, what we need to do now is create another chart loop, bracket open and close. That's the formula. We want to declare our object variable. So we have beam sheets as chart object. Okay. You remember you can even, the other one was chart shape. This one was chart shape, and they mean the same thing. Okay. Object or shape. I can put dim, see cheat as shape, is still the same thing. Okay. But I just felt I should insert chart object, and we want to declare our counter. This is the code in case you want to loop as long. And I'm going to explain some of these terminologies, hopefully, if I remember quite soon, as long. Remember, we have strings, we have, when in Excel, we have numbers and alphabets. Each of them could be strings, objects, and a list goes on, long, string functions, and so on. These are all ways to really explain the type of object variables that we are dealing with. And the more we proceed, and I'm going to be talking about this under descriptive, or is it, have we treated descriptive analysis?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we'll look at predictive analysis, and then you see what I mean by string and why you may not, or you may or may not use it at some point. So long is one of those names that you should kind of research on if you want to understand what is the meaning of object variable, and how many object variables do you have. We have long, we have strings, we have, let me even, let me give you a list of those names. I think I wrote it down somewhere. Give me a minute. Just trying to get this because I don't want you to miss this. Yeah, exactly. I remember. So let me quickly type this in. Type this somewhere so that you can. So when we have to create a chart loop, we must remember that there's something called data types. Okay, and these data types, we have byte, have integer, we have long, we have boolean, we have double, we have string object, we have objects, okay, we have date, we have currency, we have variant. Remember all of these things, okay? And for us to actually know what all of this means, we have all the megabytes, gigabytes, what else? Megabytes, gigabytes,
Right.
whatever byte is there. And remember that a byte have a range of 0 to 25. 2 gigabytes is double that number. 3 gigabytes is triple that number, and so on and so forth. And then we have what is called integers. We have what is called long. We have boolean. We have double. We have string and object. I just explained what object is today. Anything that is in form of a shape is like, chart objects, shapes. I explained that sometime. And we have dates. The date, these are all data types. and you're using the integer function, for instance, you can summarize the nearest dates to, so you don't have someone saying that from the date of birth, I was born on the 18th of December in 1987. And if you want to know how old the person is, you can actually use, because that is a date, that is a data type. Date is a data type. But if you want to change it to know the exact time or the exact age of this person, you have to approximate it. That is where the integer function comes in. The integer data type function helps you to round up the nearest number. So you don't have someone saying, I am 85.5 years old. Okay, if the person is 85.5 years old, you can just round it up. So the integer function will help you. And we have currency and variance. So these are all types of data types. All right. I don't know if you understand. Now we want to declare our object variable, the counter, as long. And if we want to proceed to clearly understand what this means, let us put some space there. And for each of the cheats in active sheet, as well, we want to tell it now, for each cheat in the active sheet, dot the chart object, we want you to counter it, and counter it by telling us that plus 1. We want to counter it, and we want you to counter it by moving across each of the charts by adding 1 to each of them. For instance, if you have chart number 1, if you are looping to the next chart, I want you to tell the next chart to be chart number 2. If you are looping to the next chart, I want you to tell the next chart that you are chart number 3. I want you to tell the next one. So you keep adding 1. So if you have 100 charts in a particular Excel sheet, instead of going to name those charts manually, chart 1, chart 2, chart 3, chart 4, and so on, you could actually use this code, and it is called the chart loop code, right? You could create a chart loop by countering each of the codes or countering each of the charts by adding 1 to the chart. And we can't just add 1 to the chart if we okay, sorry, before we insert this, when you finally declare your counter as long, okay, we need to move over the end chart and put your next chart, next sheet. That is only when you can now come and say, for each of the charts, for each of the sheets, I am telling you to work in the active sheets, chart object. I want you to, okay, I should have moved this. I want you to counter it with adding 1. Okay, add 1 to each of them. And then after adding that, remember that you can't just add 1 to each of them. I want you to call this, to call those charts. I want you to call each of the charts in that sheet. That is what it means. Cheat.chart. So I want you to call each of them with their title. And in this title, I want you to add a text. Okay, and that text, I want it to be called chart. Put your space, and then put your ampersand. Remember ampersand?
Yeah.
Yeah. put your ampersand, and then I want you to put counter.
Okay.
Yes. And then let's see, bring this close. Um, so I'm going to insert uh, can you see hear me?
Can hear you clearly.
Okay, so I just removed my mic to insert my keyboard. So I want to go to, let me, sorry. Want to see if I can minimize this. Okay. I want to see if we can look at all of this together and see if they would work the way I want them to. So for this particular code, I want to run each of them. To run each of the codes, I want to press F8 on my keyboard. So you can see I just press F8 and then I click on
What's
run.
the function of that F8?
What?
What did the F8 do differently? I know
Well,
you
the F8 would help you to run each of the codes line by line. So I just ran the first one. If I press F8, you can see it has highlighted one line of code. I press again, it has highlighted the next relevant line of code. So I'm going to click on run, right? I click on the next F8, it has highlighted the next one. I click on run. I click the next one, click on run, and that's it. The next sheet, click on run, and you can see that the chart is changing to, we now have chart number 4 and we have chart number 2. Let me open this so you see. You can see we have chart number 2, we have chart number 3, we have chart number 1 and chart number 4. Do you see how that works now?
Yes.
This is the first chart we inserted. We inserted this with second, the third, and then the fourth chart. So that is how you run the code. You may actually choose to, you can choose to run the code at once, right? Are you with me?
Okay.
So that is how to name the charts. I don't know if you have any question.
No, for now, no.
All right. So
Okay, let me ask one question because what is the difference between using this VBA to insert this chart and me just going to Excel itself and inserting the chart? Does it have any long-term effect or added advantage event? Of course, I can see that this one looks more technical. But at the same time, I feel that like this pie chart and this column cluster is what I can highlight the data from Excel itself without going to developer tab and inserting a chart and maybe renaming it and all of that design. It might take time, of course. I want to see if there is a reason why I have to go and do it on VBA.
Okay, smart question. Okay, remember that when we started, I was telling you that sometimes you are going to have access to tons and tons of data. You will not have the time to be highlighting most of your documents to create charts for each of them. The thing is that VBA is simply it's a programming language, as you have seen. Okay, while the macros, this VBA, this this whole thing here is a programming language that you have seen, and it
Yes.
is used to create the macros, which is also a programming code that runs only on the Excel environment. Remember when I told you that VBA macros, these are things that help you to automate tasks that would come to your table over and over again. So instead of going to create a new chart, assuming you have, if you watch the video I sent to you, assuming you have this type of data in another sheet, okay? If you have, let's assume you have this type of, let me undo that, copy this. Let's assume you have this type of data in another sheet, and the next sheet would contain
Hello? I can't hear you.
values that are,
I can hear you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Now, assuming you have another sheet that will contain more, let me delete this. Yeah, you have quarter, quarter five, quarter six, quarter five. Let's say you have quarter six, quarter seven, quarter eight. And then maybe the values are all changed. And then you go to sheet number three, and let's assume this one was for 2015, sorry, 2015, and this one was for 2016, and you have another sheet for 2020, whatever. So perhaps you are told to analyze the profitability of a particular company over a period of 10 years. And aside from the predictive analysis I'm going to be teaching you now, you are now requested to show the differences in the growth of the company over a period of 10 years using charts. And you have 10 bloody sheets. You have 10 sheets for you to create charts. There is no how. If I am in your shoes, there's no how I'm going to go creating charts for 10 sheets over and over again. Highlight, insert, do this, change color, go change this all over again, change legend. So for you to avoid doing all that over and over again, remember the first time we started with macros and VBA, we were trying to automate charts using all the bars and columns. They were not really charts, but they were actually a table of values. So you do it once, all you need to do is run the code, and it's going to effect the same changes in the next sheet, in the next one, in the next one, in the next one. But for charts, it's also the same thing, but you need to know how you go about it. You want to change the chart title, you want to change the chart type, you can do that. So when you go to sheet number two, you save your time by simply clicking on play, you know, simply running the same codes. And the next chart, the chart for this particular page is going to get affected using the same edit you've made in the first one, the same coloring, the same whatever you wanted to make. Go to sheet number three, and then you do the same thing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I understand it perfectly well now.
So it's simply to help you automate
Yes.
some of. But if you are not into automating tasks, maybe you have just a single sheet, you can go ahead and do whatever it is that is faster for you. So, but you can do your own personal research about the importance of your VBA, aside from the ones I just shared with you. So I'm going to